You're sitting with your own problems, real ones, ones that need your attention, and yet your mind keeps drifting to someone else, a coworker's bad decision, a stranger's argument you overheard on the street, a friend's relationship you have no part in. You tell yourself to focus, you try, but some part of your brain refuses to let it go. That pull is not a distraction. It is not weakness. It is one of the oldest survival systems your species ever built. For almost all of human history, you did not live alone. You lived in a group of roughly 50 to 150 people. Evolutionary anthropologist Robin Dunbar spent decades mapping this number, what we now call Dunbar's number, and what he found was striking. Your brain evolved a social cortex large enough to track that many relationships simultaneously, not passively, actively, monitoring who was allied with whom, who was angry, who was lying, who was about to do something that could endanger everyone. Your survival depended on it. In a small band of early humans, one person's bad decision was not just their problem. If someone in your group angered a neighboring tribe, everyone suffered. If a hunter made a reckless choice, everyone went hungry. If two allies fell out, the entire social fabric of the group could tear. You needed to know what was happening with other people because what happened with other people happened to you, so your brain built a system, a constant, low-level social monitoring network that never fully shuts off. Neuroscientist Matthew Lieberman at UCLA calls this the default mode network. When your brain has nothing specific to do, no task, no puzzle, no immediate threat, it does not go quiet. It defaults to thinking about other people, their intentions, their emotions, their choices. Lieberman's research showed that social thinking is not something your brain does when it has time. It is what your brain does automatically when nothing else is demanding attention. It is the resting state. That is what is happening when your mind drifts to your friend's struggling marriage. You are not being nosy. You are running an ancient background process that once kept your ancestors alive. But here is where it gets stranger. Your brain doesn't draw a clean line between people who matter to your survival and people who do not. It never needed to. In the ancestral environment, every person you knew personally was relevant to your survival in some way. The mental software was built for a world where all social information was useful social information. Then you introduced mass media, then the internet, then social platforms that serve you an endless stream of strangers' lives, strangers' conflicts, strangers' decisions, formatted to look exactly like the social information your brain evolved to care about. Psychologist Turkle at MIT has spent years studying what constant digital connection does to the human mind. What she found is that the brain cannot easily distinguish between a close friend's crisis and a stranger's drama delivered through a screen. The same monitoring system activates. The same emotional investment kicks in. You find yourself genuinely upset about the conflict between two people you have never met. Genuinely worried about the choices of someone whose name you only know from a profile. Your brain is not broken. It is doing exactly what it was designed to do, in the wrong environment. Think about gossip. For most of history, gossip had a terrible reputation. Moralists condemned it. Self-help books warned against it. But anthropologist Robin Dunbar, the same researcher who mapped social group sizes, also spent years studying why humans gossip and what it actually does. What he found dismantled the idea that gossip is mere pettiness. Gossip is social information transfer. In early human groups, talking about other people's behavior was how you built a shared picture of the social landscape. Who could be trusted? Who had cheated someone before? Who was generous? Who was dangerous? This information could not always be gathered through direct observation. You needed reports. You needed second-hand accounts. You needed other people telling you what they had seen and heard. Gossip was not a character flaw. It was a distributed intelligence network. Your brain rewards you for gathering and sharing it, even now, even when the information has no practical use for your actual life, even when the people involved are strangers. The reward circuitry does not ask whether this information is useful. It asks whether it is social. If it is social, it releases a small pulse of dopamine. You keep scrolling because your brain keeps rewarding you for finding more information about what other people are doing. But your ancestors did not live in a world of infinite social information. They processed the social lives of roughly 150 people. You are attempting to process thousands, tens of thousands, if you spend significant time online. The system was never calibrated for that load. Cognitive scientist Herbert Simon first described this problem in 1971, before the internet existed. He called it attention economics. He pointed out that a wealth of information creates a poverty of attention. Your brain is rich in social data and bankrupt in the cognitive resources needed to process it. So it prioritizes. It picks the most emotionally intense signals, the conflicts, the outrages, the crises, and drags your attention toward them whether you chose that or not. This is why you can spend 20 minutes thinking about a stranger's argument you saw on a forum. Not because you are shallow, because your brain classified it as high-stakes social information and refused to let it go until it felt resolved. In the ancestral environment, an unresolved conflict within your group was a genuine threat. Your brain wanted to keep thinking about it until a resolution appeared. That same instinct fires when you see conflict online, even conflict that has nothing to do with you and never will. You are trying to resolve something that cannot be resolved for people who do not know you exist because your brain believes it is protecting your tribe. Psychologist Jonathan Haidt at New York University has studied moral outrage extensively, the specific version of this phenomenon where you find yourself not just tracking someone else's problem but becoming furious about it. What he found is that moral outrage is uniquely contagious and uniquely exhausting. It spreads faster than any other emotional signal. And it was adaptive, in small groups, because collective outrage at norm violations was how communities enforced shared rules. If someone cheated, everyone got angry together. That collective anger pressured the cheater to conform. Social order held. Online, that same response fires constantly, at scale, aimed at strangers, with no resolution and no enforcement and no social cohesion to rebuild afterward. You feel the outrage. Your body responds to it physically. Your cortisol rises, your attention narrows, and then nothing happens. No resolution, no social repair. Just the next piece of content pulling the same lever again. You cannot stop thinking about other people's problems because you were never meant to stop. The stopping mechanism was never installed. In the ancestral environment, the problems resolved themselves or escalated to a point of action. The loop closed. Now the loop stays open indefinitely. There is something worth sitting with here. The fact that you care about other people's problems, even strangers, even ones that cannot affect you, is not a design flaw. It is the signature of a species that survived by caring, by monitoring, by staying connected to the social world around it. The same capacity that makes you get lost in a stranger's drama is the capacity that lets you genuinely feel someone else's pain, recognize injustice from a distance, and build the kind of trust that holds communities together. The problem is not the caring. The problem is a world that learned to exploit the caring faster than your brain could adapt to defend against it. So tonight, when you catch your mind deep in someone else's situation, someone you barely know, someone you have never met, someone whose story reached you through a screen, you will know what is actually happening. An ancient monitoring system built across hundreds of thousands of years, doing exactly the job it was designed for. You cannot fully turn it off. You were never meant to. But now you know what it is.